My name's Jenna, and I'm 29, living in the heart of Atlanta, Georgia, where the city hums with ambition and the suburbs whisper of family secrets. I'm a marketing coordinator, always chasing the next campaign, the next big idea. But if you told me a few years ago I'd be standing at the edge of a wedding disaster, I'd have laughed it off. Life has a way of throwing curveballs, and mine started way back when I was just a kid. Growing up, it was just me and my dad in a modest ranch-style house on the outskirts of Atlanta. My mom passed when I was 8. Cancer took her fast, leaving a hole I didn't know how to fill. I still remember her laugh, warm like summer evenings on our porch, but those memories are fuzzy now, like old photographs fading at the edges. Losing her made me cautious, like I was always waiting for the next loss. My dad, though, he stepped up. He owned a small logistics company, hauling freight across the Southeast, and he poured every ounce of himself into raising me. Late nights at the office, early mornings making pancakes, he was my rock. Still, I saw the worry in his eyes, the kind that comes from carrying a family alone. He never let me feel less than, but I carried that weight too, wanting to make him proud. I wasn't big on dating. In high school, while my friends obsessed over prom dates, I was fine with my books and my part-time job at a local coffee shop. Love felt risky, like opening a door I wasn't sure I could close. I figured I'd be okay on my own, climbing the career ladder, maybe getting a dog someday. But then, one muggy Atlanta afternoon, a coworker dragged me to a networking mixer at a downtown bar. That's where I met Micah. Micah was 31, a software developer with a disarming smile and a knack for making you feel seen. He wasn't pushy like some guys, just kind, asking about my work, my favorite spots in the city. I brushed him off at first, thinking he was just another charmer. But he kept showing up, texting to check in, bringing me coffee when I was swamped at work. He was different, steady in a way that chipped away at my walls. After months of saying no to dates, I finally said yes. We'd grab burgers at the Varsity, walk through Piedmont Park, or just talk for hours on my apartment balcony. Slowly, I let myself feel something. Micah made me believe in forever, something I hadn't dared to imagine since I was a kid. When he proposed one evening under the twinkling lights of Centennial Olympic Park, I was floored. He got down on one knee, his hands shaking a little, and said, "Jenna, I want to build a life with you. I'll always have your back." My heart raced, torn between joy and that old fear of losing someone I loved. But looking into his eyes, I said yes. My dad cried when I told him, his face lighting up in a way I hadn't seen since I graduated college. "Jenna, you're really doing this," he said, pulling me into a hug. "I always knew you'd find your way." I laughed, teasing him for getting sappy, but deep down, I was thrilled. I wanted this, Micah. A family, a future. Still, a knot of nerves twisted in my gut. Micah came from Buckhead, Atlanta's ritzy neighborhood, where folks drove sleek cars and threw gala-worthy parties. His parents, Oakley and Victor, were old money, or at least they acted like it, with their big house and bigger egos. I'd heard Micah talk about them, his mom's sharp tongue, his dad's obsession with status. I was just a girl from the suburbs, raised by a single dad who scraped by. Would I fit into their world? Micah swore they'd love me, but I couldn't shake the feeling I was walking into a lion's den. As we started planning the wedding, my days blurred into a whirlwind of work and decisions, venues, flowers, guest lists. Micah and I were both slammed, me with marketing campaigns, him with coding deadlines. Weekends were for dress fittings and cake tastings, leaving no time to breathe. But every time I felt overwhelmed, Micah would squeeze my hand and say, "We're in this together, Jenna. You and me." His words kept me grounded, even as my doubts about his family lingered. I hadn't met them yet, scheduling conflicts, they said, but soon I'd have to face them. And something told me it wouldn't be the warm welcome I'd hoped for. A few weeks before the wedding, Micah and I finally carved out a day to visit his parents in Buckhead. I'd been dreading it, my stomach churning as we drove past manicured lawns and gated driveways. Their house loomed like something out of a magazine, white columns, sprawling porch, the kind of place that screamed money. I smoothed my dress, feeling like a kid playing dress-up. They're gonna love you, Micah said, flashing that easy smile. I wanted to believe him, but my palms were sweaty as I clutched the bottle of wine I'd brought as a gift. Oakley, Micah's mom, answered the door, her pearls gleaming against a crisp blouse. Micah, darling, she cooed, pulling him into a hug. Then her eyes landed on me, sharp and appraising, like I was a used car she wasn't sure about buying. You must be Jenna, she said, her voice cool, her smile tight. I forced a grin, holding out the wine. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Caldwell. Thanks for having me. She took the bottle without a word, barely glancing at it, and ushered us inside. The living room was all high ceilings and polished furniture, but the air felt heavy, like a storm was brewing. Victor, Micah's dad, sat in a leather armchair, scrolling on his phone. He barely looked up as we walked in, muttering a quick hello before Oakley took over. So, Jenna, she said, sitting ramrod straight on the sofa. Tell me about yourself. Micah's our only son, our pride and joy. We need to know you're suitable. The word hit like a jab. Suitable? I swallowed hard, glancing at Micah, who just nodded encouragingly. I work in marketing, I started, trying to keep my voice steady. I grew up here in Atlanta, raised by my dad. I'm excited to join your family. Her eyes narrowed, scanning me like I was a puzzle she couldn't solve. Raised by her father alone, she said, her tone dripping with something I couldn't quite place. Pity, maybe, or disdain. That must have been challenging. No mother to teach you how to be a proper wife. My chest tightened. I wanted to snap back, to tell her my dad was more than enough, that he taught me to cook, to dream, to stand up for myself. But I bit my tongue, forcing a polite nod. My dad did a great job. I'm grateful for him. Oakley's lips pursed, unimpressed. Victor finally looked up, adjusting his glasses. Jenna, marrying into our family means upholding our standards. Micah's our legacy. Can you handle that responsibility? I blinked, stunned. Responsibility? What did they think I was signing up for? A corporate merger? I love Micah, I said, my voice firmer now. We'll support each other, build a life together. Oakley scoffed, a sharp little sound that cut through me. Support each other? Oh, honey, your job is to support Micah. A wife's role is to elevate her husband, not drag him down. Her words stung, like she'd already decided I was beneath them. Before I could respond, Micah's sister, Reagan, breezed in, her heels clicking on the hardwood. She was all polish, sleek hair, tailored blazer, a lawyer who oozed confidence. So, you're the one Micah's marrying, she said, her smile more like a smirk. I hope you understand what it means to join the Caldwells. Coming from a single-parent home, you might not get how families like ours work. My jaw clenched. They kept circling back to my dad like it was some kind of defect. There's nothing wrong with my upbringing, I said, my voice shaking but clear. My dad worked hard, and I'm proud of where I come from. Reagan raised an eyebrow, exchanging a look with Oakley. It's just optics, Reagan said, shrugging. A single-parent background doesn't exactly scream stability. We're protective of Micah's future. Victor nodded, adding, if you're serious about marrying him, you'll need to prove you're worthy. That means putting our family first. I felt like I was on trial, their words piling up like bricks around me. Micah sat there, silent, his eyes on the floor. I waited for him to jump in, to tell them they were out of line, but he just squeezed my hand under the table. My heart sank. I'd spent years guarding myself from hurt, and now, sitting in this pristine living room, I felt exposed, small. These people didn't see me. They saw a girl who didn't belong in their world. As we drove back to my apartment, the silence between us was heavy. They didn't mean it like that, Micah finally said, his voice soft. They're just particular. They want the best for us. I stared out the window, the city lights blurring. They insulted my dad, Micah. They insulted me. And you didn't say a word. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. They're my parents, Jenna. They're intense, but they'll come around. Let's just focus on the wedding, okay? His words didn't soothe me, they burned. I'd opened my heart to him, trusted him to be my partner, but now I wondered if he'd ever stand up for me. I thought about my dad, the man who'd faced every challenge alone to give me a good life. If he could do that, I could face this. But as I lay awake that night, doubts crept in. Was I enough for Micah's world? Or was I walking into a trap I couldn't escape? The weeks after meeting Micah's family felt like walking on eggshells. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Oakley's cold stare, heard Reagan's smug optics comment. My heart ached, replaying their words about my dad, about me not being suitable. I'd spent my life proving I was enough, busting my tail at work, earning my degree, making my dad proud. But now, doubt gnawed at me. Was I fooling myself, thinking I could fit into Micah's world? I needed to talk to him, to know we were still a team. One evening, after a long day at the office, I sat him down on my couch, the Atlanta skyline twinkling through my apartment window. Micah, I started, my voice quieter than I meant it to be. Your parents, what they said about my dad, about me. It hurt. A lot. He leaned back, rubbing his neck, his face softening. I know they came on strong, Jenna. They're just protective. They've always been intense about family stuff. I frowned, my fingers twisting the hem of my shirt. Protective? They acted like I'm not good enough for you. And you just sat there. My voice cracked, betraying the hurt I'd been holding in. Micah reached for my hand, his touch warm, but not quite reassuring. I didn't want to make it worse, he said. They're my parents. They mean well, even if they're harsh. Once we're married, they'll see how great you are. His words sounded hollow, like he was trying to convince himself as much as me. I wanted to believe him, to cling to the Micah who'd brought me coffee and made me laugh until my sides hurt. But this Micah, the one who wouldn't challenge his parents, felt like a stranger. I need you to have my back, I said, my eyes searching his. If they talk to me like that again, will you say something? He hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, of course. Let's just get through the wedding. It'll be fine. Fine. That word stuck with me, sharp and empty. I wanted more than fine. I wanted a partner who'd fight for me, like my dad had fought for me my whole life. But I pushed the doubt down, telling myself love was worth it. Micah and I threw ourselves into wedding plans, hoping the chaos would drown out my unease. We booked a charming venue in Midtown, a historic hall with chandeliers and hardwood floors. Weekends were a blur of picking linens, tasting cakes, and arguing over guest lists. My dad helped where he could, his eyes lighting up when we chose a peach-themed dessert table, a nod to Georgia's pride. But every decision felt heavier than it should. I'd catch myself staring at my engagement ring, wondering if I was rushing into something I didn't fully understand. Micah was still sweet, still the guy who'd dance with me in my kitchen to old country tunes. But now I noticed the way he dodged questions about his parents, the way he'd changed the subject when I brought up their visit. It was like he was pretending that day never happened, and it made my stomach twist. One night, as we stuffed save-the-date envelopes, I tried again. Micah, do your parents always judge people like that? I mean, they barely know me. He sighed, setting down a stack of cards. They're just old school, Jenna. They think family is everything, and they're worried about, I don't know, appearances. They'll get over it once we're married. I stared at him, my heart sinking. Appearances? So it's about me not being from Buckhead? Or because my dad raised me alone? He looked away, his jaw tight. It's not like that. They just want us to be a strong couple, like they are. A strong couple? I almost laughed. If that's what a strong couple looked like, tearing down someone's family, making demands, I wanted no part of it. But I didn't say that. Instead, I nodded, stuffing another envelope, my fingers trembling. I thought about my dad, how he'd faced the world alone to give me a home, a future. He'd never judged anyone, never made me feel small. If Micah couldn't see how wrong his parents were, what did that mean for us? As the wedding date loomed, I felt torn. Part of me wanted to run to my dad, to tell him I was scared. But another part, the part that loved Micah, that dreamed of a family, kept me moving forward. I told myself it was nerves, that once we were married, things would settle. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. Something was coming, something I wasn't ready for, and it felt like the ground was already shifting beneath my feet. The morning of my wedding felt like a dream I couldn't quite grasp. The Midtown venue glowed with soft lights, peach blossoms draped over every table, and the air buzzed with excitement. I stood in front of a mirror, my white dress hugging my frame, feeling like a stranger in my own skin. My dad walked in, his eyes misty as he adjusted my veil. "You're beautiful, Jenna," he said, his voice thick. "Your mom would be so proud." I hugged him tight, fighting back tears, trying to hold on to his words instead of the dread curling in my chest. Walking down the aisle with him, I saw Micah waiting, his smile wide but nervous. We exchanged vows, his voice steady as he promised to love me forever. The crowd clapped, cameras flashed, and for a moment, I let myself believe it was perfect. This was it, my new beginning. But as we moved to the reception, that fragile hope started to crack. The hall was packed with friends, co-workers, and relatives, all laughing and clinking glasses. I chatted with old college buddies, my heart lighter than it had been in weeks. Micah and I danced, his arms warm around me, and I thought, maybe this will work. Maybe his parents will stay quiet. But then I noticed Oakley and Victor near the bar, their faces flushed, swaying as they gripped their drinks. My stomach dropped. They were drunk, and not the fun kind. As the night wound down, we lined up to greet guests, me, Micah, my dad, and the Caldwells. I could feel Oakley's eyes on me, sharp even through her haze. The MC handed me the microphone to thank everyone, but before I could speak, Oakley snatched it from my hand. Her voice boomed through the hall, slurred but commanding. "Listen up, Jenna," she said, wobbling on her heels. "You're part of our family now, so you better step up. We expect you to hand over your salary $500 a month, right? To us. Prove you're not just some gold digger." The room went silent, then buzzed with whispers. My face burned, my hands frozen around the bouquet I was holding. Guests exchanged glances, some giggling nervously, thinking it was a joke. I looked at Micah, pleading with my eyes for him to stop her. He just stood there, his face pale, his lips pressed tight. Victor grabbed the microphone next, his voice loud and mocking. "That dress, Jenna, doesn't suit you at all. You should have asked us first." Oakley nodded, smirking. "Tell her, Victor. She needs to know her place." Laughter rippled through the crowd, but it wasn't kind. It was the sound of shock turning to judgment. My heart pounded, humiliation washing over me like a wave. I'd spent my life proving I was enough, and now, in front of everyone I cared about, they were tearing me apart. I turned to Micah again, desperate for him to say something, anything. But he looked away, his hands shoved in his pockets. That's when it hit me. He'd never stand up for me. Not now, not ever. My dad stepped forward, his face calm but his eyes blazing. He gently took the microphone from Victor. "That's enough," he said, his voice steady but cutting. "You're embarrassing yourselves and humiliating my daughter. Have you no shame?" Oakley glared at him, swaying. "Who are you to talk? A single father with no class, raising a girl who doesn't belong in our world." The crowd gasped, and my chest tightened, rage mixing with pain. I wanted to scream, to tell them my dad was worth 10 of them, that he built a life for me out of nothing. But before I could, my dad spoke again, his voice low and dangerous. "You think single parents are beneath you? Funny, because my old friend, Tom Grayson, CEO of Grayson Realty, your boss, Victor, was raised by his mom alone. You just insulted him, and I'm sure he'll love hearing about it." The color drained from Victor's face. Oakley's smirk vanished. The room buzzed louder now, phones out, recording every second. I felt a surge of pride for my dad, but my heart was breaking. Micah's silence was louder than their insults. I'd trusted him, loved him, and he'd let me stand alone in this nightmare. The fairy tale I'd built in my head crumbled, and all I could feel was the weight of my own worth, screaming to be recognized. The reception hall felt like a pressure cooker, the air thick with whispers and the weight of my in-laws' words. Oakley and Victor stood there, swaying, their smugness fading as my dad's words about their boss sank in. Victor's face crumpled, and he grabbed my dad's arm, his voice low and panicked. Please don't tell Tom. I didn't mean it like that. Oakley clutched her pearls, her eyes darting around at the guests filming on their phones. We were just joking, she stammered, but the crowd wasn't buying it. I looked at Micah, waiting for him to step up, to say something, anything, to defend me. But he just stared at the floor, his hands still in his pockets, as if he could hide from this mess. My heart shattered, not just from his parents' cruelty, but from his betrayal. I'd given him everything, my trust, my love, my future, and he'd left me to face this alone. The pain was sharp, but it lit a fire in me. I wasn't the girl who'd shrink back anymore. I took the microphone from my dad, my hands shaking but my voice steady. Thank you all for coming, I said, my eyes sweeping the room. But there won't be a marriage today. I deserve better than this. I turned to Micah, his face pale, and then to his parents. And you? You'll never control me. The crowd erupted, some clapping, some gasping, a few cheering. I handed the microphone to the MC, grabbed my dad's hand, and walked out, my dress trailing behind me like a ghost of the life I'd almost had. As we stepped into the cool Atlanta night, my dad pulled me into a hug. I'm so proud of you, Jenna, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I cried then, not just for the dream I'd lost, but for the strength I'd found. We drove home in silence, the city lights blurring through my tears. Over the next few days, I refunded every guest's contribution, sending notes of apology. To my surprise, they didn't judge me. Friends texted, coworkers called, all saying I dodged a bullet, that my dad was a hero. Their support wrapped around me like a warm blanket, reminding me I wasn't alone. Word spread fast. Micah's coworkers, who'd been at the wedding, shared the story at his tech firm. Whispers about his crazy parents and his spinelessness followed him like a shadow. A week later, I heard he'd quit, too embarrassed to face the gossip. Victor's fate was worse. My dad kept his promise, telling his friend Tom Grayson about the Caldwell's insults. Tom, a proud single-parent success story, didn't take kindly to it. Victor was demoted to a dead-end role at a rural office outside Macon, a far cry from his Buckhead swagger. Oakley and Reagan were shunned at their country club, their social circle turning their backs after the viral videos of their outburst. I didn't feel sorry for them. They'd built their own cage. Back home, my dad and I grew closer than ever. We'd spend Sundays grilling in his backyard, talking about life, love, and everything in between. One evening, as we sat on his porch, he looked at me, his eyes serious but warm. Jenna, you're stronger than you know. What do you say to joining me at the company? I could use someone like you, maybe even running the show one day. My heart skipped. His logistics firm wasn't huge, but it was his pride, built from years of sweat. The idea of leading it, of carrying his legacy, felt like a lifeline. I'll do it, I said, my voice steady with purpose. I want to make you proud. He smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. You already do, kid. From that moment, I threw myself into learning the business, logistics, contracts, the works. It was tough, but every late night at the office, every new deal I landed, felt like a step towards something real. I wasn't just rebuilding my life. I was building myself. Looking back, that wedding could have trapped me in a life of bowing to people who'd never see my worth. Instead, it set me free. I learned I didn't need Micah's love or his family's approval to be whole. My dad's faith, my own grit. That's enough. I'm still figuring out who I'll become, but I know one thing. I'm done letting anyone make me feel small. The future's wide open, and I'm ready to chase it, one bold step at a time. To everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. You've walked with me through heartbreak, betrayal, and a comeback I didn't see coming. If my story hit you, if it made you cheer or cry, hit that subscribe button and join me. Life's messy, but it's ours to shape. Keep fighting for your worth, and I'll see you in the next chapter.